Troops, here we are, another Eagle podcast, another fantastic guest, an area that I haven't had before, motorsport. We're all fans, we all watch it in some way or other, and I'm pleased to say tonight I'm joined by the very, very, very fast Sarah Hall. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Cheers for having me.
No, it's great stuff. Look, Sarah, I've followed your account on Instagram for a while, and to say the sort of stuff that you do is impressive is a bit of an understatement. And where does your love of motorsport come from?
My dad, 100%. He's raced pretty much all his adult life and bikes and cars, various different forms of motorsport. So I've grown up really with him in the garage, following his racing career, and I've kind of had no choice, I guess, really.
And what's that like? Being around sort of cars and mechanically minded from an early age, is it something that you fell straight in love with, or is it something that's grown?
Definitely a passion that's grown. I mean, I've always been, a big supporter of my dad and his racing and everything he's been doing. I've always followed him from being a small child. Our family holidays were trips to Belgium to rally. So, no centre park for us. It was all rally and stuff. But no, amazing. So I've always been a supporter of that. But I think as a child, I probably rebelled a little bit. I wasn't that bothered. He was always trying to teach me how to drive at quite a young age. He was really keen to get me involved. And I wasn't so bothered until I got my provisional licence and sort of got behind the wheel properly and seen what it's all about. And then it just clicked. And then, that's it.
At what levels did your father race at?
So he raced. He rode Speedway. So he rode there back in sort of late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. And then he moved on to he always did a bit of minis, bit of like night rallies and stuff. And then he moved on to it was pretty cool. I've just been actually going through a lot of his old photographs and stuff and trying to archive it. So I've been
amazing.
Learning a lot of his old stories. But and then he moved on to cars and he did a lot of rallying, rallycross. And then he did his latest racing championship was circuit racing. And he's currently rebuilding the car, so he's out at the moment. But watch this space.
Wow. Let's go through some of that. I mean, we talked before we started the podcast about Speedway. Now, for those who don't know, Speedway is drifting, but on bikes without brakes.
Kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, and Speedway. When did you say he started? Mid to late 70s.
Yeah, so I think he probably first started riding. I mean, he always rode bikes in general, but I think he probably got his first Speedway bike sort of mid 70s, and he rode obviously for a few years for various different teams. Mainly he rode for Glasgow,
right?
And he had a couple of races on behalf of them. He was sort of substituted in for injured riders for Prague, so he rode an international meeting as well, which is pretty cool.
And what's it? How much has that sport and that spectacle grown over the years? Has it got like for me it seems like it's almost got like a cult following, like a die-hard following?
Definitely. It's still quite an old-fashioned sport. There's not a lot of changed really.
Okay.
If you look at sort of how it ran and how it runs, like in the 70s and how it runs now, there really isn't that much difference. The bikes have changed a little bit and stuff, but generally it's an old-time sport that I think is always going to have that charm because it's not a complicated sport. It's four riders, 4 laps, fast as you can. Easy as that, really. So it's just a minute or so of intense drama.
And what sort of speeds are these bikes getting up to when they're going full flat out?
It probably depends on the track because you do have different size circuits.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would estimate they must be getting up to 60 mile an hour.
Wow.
I dare say if you're looking at stuff like long track, they're about 1 kilometre long, I think. They're crazy length tracks. So they're like huge tracks, especially abroad as well. They've got bigger tracks than they have here, so they're probably going a lot faster.
And where would you say Speedway is at its peak? Like what countries really embraced it? Or
Poland, it's massive, to be honest.
Really?
I think, Poland.
Wow.
Like, I mean, I'm not a football fan in any manner at all. If it hasn't got an engine, I don't care. That's basically my motto in life. But you know how the English get about the World Cup, even if you're not a football fan. Most people tend to get the fever and they get the hype about it. Poland and Speedway is kind of like that. It's
Really? Wow.
huge over there. Yeah, really big.
Sound. And then you sort of mentioned, what was he rallying Mini Coopers, Mini Coupe rallies?
Yeah, so he used to do, well, he started off with stuff like night rallies and 12 cars. So
Oh,
there'd
amazing.
be like little RAC run events, and everyone would have whatever car they had. He had various minis over the
Yeah.
years that came to different ends, and then he bought new ones. And yeah, he had a lot of fun with that, and then moved on to rallycross a little bit, and then yeah, moved on to kind of bigger and better cars, if you like.
And is this how you sort of really got emerged in the motorsport world? And when did you first sort of compete? When did you first start getting into it and racing? At what level?
I don't really compete at the moment.
Okay.
I'm more of a stunt driving background. So faffing about, I think, is the official job title.
When you say stunt driving, is that for movies? Like what where does that come into play?
So I mean, obviously there's a lot between me being a child and getting into stunt driving.
Yeah.
I just find out. But yeah, I mean, my role depends on the project. So I could be potentially doing it for a film, a TV show.
Wow.
Or I could be doing it for promotional videos for car manufacturers and stuff like that. I mean, realistically, I'm still in the early days of that kind of career path.
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate and really lucky and worked hard to get, a few decent projects to get the experience on and work with.
And how does that, like, you have to build a portfolio of you and to get noticed when you talk about car adverts? So say, I don't know, I've seen on your Instagram you've done stuff for Rolls Royce. Like,
yeah,
do you approach them and say, "Look, I am awesome, please use me"?
Well, I can and I have, yeah.
Yeah.
What I work with basically a company, or various companies, to be honest, that they run events or they provide drivers. So it's not an agency as such, but it's kind of along those lines.
Right.
Is the easiest way to think of it. The companies have various different drivers and different staff on their books with various different talents and experiences, and
yeah,
because they are known within the industry,
yeah,
the manufacturers themselves will contact this company and say, do you know anybody that can do this job, basically.
Right. And what's a typical sort of a day, like a normal 9 to 5 for you, like on the shoot? How does it sort of play out?
It's a lot of weight. And if you're doing filming,
Yeah.
I do two different roles, you see, because I do a lot of the driving, but I also work as a trainer as well. So I train people how to drive in a more spirited fashion. But I also do a lot of training for car manufacturers, so it'll be product training and stuff like that. So they're the more mundane days, if you like, compared with the stunt driving. But if you're filming, it tends to be, you sort of meet and greet everybody that's going to be involved with the project.
Yeah.
You tend to spend a bit of time with the car, so you know what to expect. Whether it's a car you've not driven before, you have to learn, do a bit of a recce around the location just to see what's what. You need to just be prepared, really, and then you'll obviously get a brief of what it is they're trying to do and trying to achieve. A lot of practice runs, a lot of shoots. I mean, what you've got to do when you're filming really is you've kind of got to be able to replicate the same maneuver in the same spot and land in the same place every single time. So you've got to be consistent.
Wow.
And what you'll find is sometimes you're really lucky and you might do one maneuver and it's in the bag and it's great. But what you tend to find is a lot of waiting around, because the guys who are running the cameras and stuff like that, it's a lot of time to set all that equipment up and get it right. And you might be doing the exact maneuver you want, but if they haven't got the lighting right, you're going to have to do it again. And it's all kind of trial and error until they get that perfect shot.
It's really interesting, because I feel like car culture has changed. Like, even in my brief experience, I remember sort of all the laddie sort of car magazines, Fast Car, Max Power, and like that whole remember that sort of explosion from, like, I want to say the early 90s to sort of, when did it sort of end? 2004, 2005, where they
that
just
sort of thing.
And it sort of went from everyone buying Wolf Race alloys and, like, trying to mod their own cars and had a bit of. I mean, I remember reading sort of like Max Power, and people were buying bog standard cars and turning them into, you know, some people spent bottomless pits, didn't they? And did you ever sort of do anything for those sort of people, and like as in the driving side and that side?
No, I was probably just a little bit young for it then, really. I'll have been driving. I think, when did I start driving? I don't know, 2006, something like that.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
So I'll have just missed out on all that kind of stuff. Like, I was aware of it, I was into the scene, but like, yeah, I didn't have any experience really at that age.
And what was your first car?
Peugeot 306, 2-litre turbo diesel.
Wow.
90 horsepower. I wish I'd never sold it. Yeah, amazing. Actually, I only sold it about a year or so ago, to be honest.
Really?
Maybe 2 now? Is it 18 months or something? Yeah, I've kept it. And I just kept it at the back of the drive. And then a friend of mine needed a car. And I said, oh, well, look, this has been, like, I've owned this for years, like 10 years plus. Like, it's a great car. We've kept it. You know, I'd much rather sell you this than you end up getting a lemon from someone else, kind of thing. And so I gave her it, you know, a decent price. And yeah, and now I sort of walk past it. Funny enough, she lives on my road, so I walk past it sometimes. I'm like, I want it back.
and is it still as bulletproof as it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I think she shunted someone about a month after she had it, so like I reprimanded her for that. However, brilliant car, yeah, really, really good.
It's come a long way, hasn't it? Like car cultures and car designs, and I sort of feel like at one point there was like the Corsa crew and the Fiesta crew,
yeah.
And now a lot of cars sort of seem to look similar. Like I know we're advancing, but everything, like at one point you could tell a Renault and you could tell a Peugeot and you could tell different car designers, and now, I mean, I saw a new Corsa the other day and I was like, looks like a Fiesta. Like the way like the whole things are starting to come into one, and I like the whole I've bought a car and I'm have to go and put a CD player in it.
I know, I love it. Like, it's a bit sad that you don't have to do that anymore, because what a joy. Like the day I bought head unit for my Peugeot was like such a happy day.
Yeah.
Just because it was like such an achievement, an amazing bit of technology, and like that, yeah, that's easily pleased back then, weren't we?
Yeah. Do you know what? I come back from Afghanistan in 2008, and I obviously saved a lot of money, and I'd always wanted a Honda Civic Type R. Like it'd always been Nighthawk black, like that whole. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't find the right one. And I ended up buying a Toyota Celica 190, and like I went from like a 2-litre to this. And I literally turned it into the Batmobile. Like it was black anyway, and I was like black wheels, tint the windows, like, and it had a double din in it, and I was like, and I went and got a Pioneer double din, and I still remember it now. It was 770 quid fitted, and it was like, once it was in, I was like, oh my god, this is the best, this is the best thing ever. But that's what it did to you, didn't it? You know, like modifying your own car, and like, God, I used to wash that car once, twice, polishing it all the time, and I was a nightmare. Like parking in Morrison's, I was like, right, if I park over there in the corner.
I still do that now. It doesn't matter what car I'm in. I still park away from everyone because, you know, dogging. But it was cheaper though back then. I know, like, we still spent a lot of money on it, but it was actually cheaper and easier to modify cars.
Yeah.
You could go and get a body kit for a couple of £100, you know what I mean? And now, I think styling has got better in a sense, that cars look a little bit more sporty in general, and you don't feel the need to modify them so much. But it's less accessible as well, because it's an absolute fortune now. Yeah,
and it's gone away from that you can do it yourself sort of mentality to a point now where it's like, you just can't do it, can you? And then you have the whole thing of insurance companies and warranties and a lot of people don't own cars anymore. Like PCP, car ownership is completely changed. So
that's a massive factor as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you couldn't go and get a car out and then take it back to Evans Halshaw and they're like, "What's this?" Oh, well,
where's my bumpers gone?
I've put an aggressive body count and I've loaded 20 mil. No, no, we've got a problem. What would be your favourite car?
You know what? That question is one of the hardest questions in the world.
Well,
I never know how to answer it because I
yeah.
can't choose one. See, my answer back would be, for what purpose?
Yeah, true. Purpose is important. Have you got something that you've sort of always thought, oh, I'd love to drive one of them? Or have you literally driven just about everything there is to drive?
Well, there's definitely cars I haven't driven for sure, but I think it depends on purpose massively, because it's like, and budget. Do I have an imaginary budget for this, imaginary car? But I think a car that I've always wanted to own, which actually isn't really an out of reach car, it's just something that I've never really gone for, because I've always been doing long work journeys. So I've always gone for kind of eco really in general.
Yeah.
But I'd love a Nissan 350Z.
Yeah, they are.
370. They're just a good all-round car. They're a great handling car. I used to do track days in one.
Wow.
They handle really, really well. The loads are fun, but they're super practical as well. You can daily one, no problem. And they're not bad for drifting as well. So
Well, I was going to say that
you can do a bit of everything in those. They're just really good.
Yeah, one of the sort of worst, like I always wanted like an Alfa Romeo, right? Like I loved Alfa Romeos, and obviously I'd heard all the rumors, and then I bought an Alfa Romeo GT, and I think it's the best looking car I've ever owned, but mechanically, me and my mechanic just became best friends. Like it was
not good.
It was absolutely every other week I'll be like, oh, what's, like there'd be a warning light on, or there'd be there was in an Alpha, there's always a noise.
Yeah.
There's always something
just
rattling
turn the radio up. That's what I've learned over the years. Turn the radio up.
I say that sometimes. I say to people, own an Alpha, but not for too long. I mean, I don't know what the brand. I mean, it's always a good looking car. I don't know what the new ones are like, but the one I had was an 05, and had it like 6 months, and then the bills just started becoming ridiculous. I was like, it's time. It's time to move on. I was watching a thing on your website today of a Porsche Boxster, and I looked at that car first. I was like, what even is it? Like I couldn't even make out what it is. Like before you said a Porsche Boxster, and then they put a R8. Did you say an R8 engine in it?
Audi RS4 engine.
RS4. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? It looked amazing. It looked a lot of fun.
It's a bit of kit. Yeah, it's a good bit of fun. Yeah, it's owned by a friend of mine, Rob. He's a great friend of mine. As is his missus and his team. We were friends for a long time, through rallycross mainly.
Yeah.
And Rob was going to be going to Coventry Motorfest when they opened it up to actually shut the bypass basically, and use the bypass to do runs. I mean, there weren't competitive runs really. It was just kind of a crowd pleaser, and
Yeah.
But yeah, Rob said, get yourself in the car. You're going to go out in it, and I obviously said yes. And it's got some good power. It's got some really good power behind the back. Just wants to overtake the front. It's a good bit of fun. You've got to learn how to handle it. I'd love some more seat time in that. It's a pretty cool car. But yeah, Rob and his very good friend and mechanic Hannah, we actually went out and did the Sky One show. So that's kind of another lead on from the Porsche. That's why we chose a Porsche for that, because Rob works for a Porsche like parts specialist, so he knows Porsche inside and out, as does Hannah, because she mechanics on his rallycross car for him.
Wow. What's the Sky One thing? What's it all about?
It's a crazy time. It's one of the best, most horrendous things I've ever done.
Wow.
All in one go.
Wow.
But unbelievable experience. Basically we got wind of Sky One and a media team that were running it at the time, this program, wanting contestants for the show.
Yeah.
So we applied, just
as you do.
Yeah. Didn't think we'd get anywhere. But yeah, we got a call back, and then we got another and another, and got through each stage to the point where I was actually on the train to Manchester Airport.
Nice.
And I got a call to say, you're in as a team. You're in. You're gonna go.
Wow.
You're gonna go to South Africa and you're gonna film this program. So we were all just like, what? Like
Yes.
crazy times.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone believed it until we were actually there.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, the idea was it was called Carnage.
Closing the name.
And it was. It absolutely was. Yeah. The idea was there was 30 teams. Everyone had built their own sort of Mad Max style weaponized vehicle, and we had to just smash the holy hell out of each other in the middle of the desert in various different challenges. So yeah, it was interesting, we'll say that.
Has that aired? Is that long?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, when
I'm
did
going
it
to
air?
find it.
18 months ago. If you can find it, let me know, because no one can find it anywhere now. It kind of aired and we were in rumours of a series 2, and then that never happened. Yeah, and we can't find it anywhere. So.
And was it like a Destruction Derby sort of thing, or?
It was. Have you seen Robot Wars?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It was that, but with people in.
Wow.
Basically.
and so the premise was you got given you had to choose a chassis, and then you got given loads of parts and just went, right, build something.
Kind of. They basically gave us free rein to a degree.
Wow.
They said design something and we'll okay it, basically. So we chose a Porsche because we were told various different scenarios of what we would be doing, but very vague. So we kind of had to make it up. So we ended up Porsche Boxster on like Land Rover wheels and tires, basically. Slightly better for the desert.
Yeah.
And we had to strip the whole thing. We sent it off for them to put the safety equipment in, which I'm playing fast and loose with the term safety, I think. But anyway, that's a different story for a different day. And then they sent it back to us with stuff like cage and fire extinguishers fitted, and then we had to basically build and design the car around that. So everything was like 5mm plated steel. Everything was armoured, everything was covered. I couldn't get in and out the driver's door. That was all completely armoured up with steel, so I had to climb over and get out the passenger side.
Wow.
We had to choose various weapons on our cars.
What, when you say weapons, what, like, in like a jousting thing or something, or?
We could, within reason, we could have whatever we wanted. So we chose.
Sounds bonkers.
I know. Well, obviously, I mean, we couldn't have military grade weapons, of course. Yeah. But we had to be as brutal as we could. So it was stuff like spikes. We had a cat of nine tails on the back. So I had a lever inside the car. Which, when obviously I chose, I could pull this lever and it would release basically a cat of nine tails off the back, and it would just puncture whoever's tires it hit. Wow. We had a smoke bomb release in the car as well, so I could potentially get away from people. That didn't happen. You'll see when you watch it. Right. I got. We had a paintball gun, so we had a really small slat out front. Arm. So I could use it a bit like a tank with a paintball gun. Yeah, so that was, in theory, that would get people's windscreens with the paint.
Yeah, so they couldn't see.
Yeah, so it was stuff like that. When we say weapons, it was stuff like that. But
wow. And were the other teams from the UK, or was it like around the world sort of combat? Like,
it was all UK. Yeah.
Wow.
All UK people. Yeah.
And what was the sort of what other vehicles was on shore? There must have been a Land Rover. Got to have been.
There was a lot of that sort of chassis, yeah, for sure. We had, I mean, there was a team that made a Hell Kitty, not Hello Kitty, bright pink Mark 1 Ford Focus on like this big sort of Land Rover chassis.
Wow.
So it looked it was very apocalypse, very sort of steampunk, it was really cool.
It sounds like, have you seen Death Race? Like with Jason,
it was basically that, but real life.
Wow. And obviously there was tasks like first one over the line, first one to do this, first one to do that sort of thing. Or was it just get in there and smash each other?
Yeah, second one, really. We were kind of promised various different challenges, should we say.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges was going to be a desert race.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from the fact that between Rob and Hannah, the knowledge of Porsche between them was immense. So any repairs would be lightning quick. Another reason we chose it was for its agility, because we knew as soon as it was desert, we knew that everybody near enough would be choosing a 4x4, they'd be choosing
of course,
a road vehicle, which does make a lot of sense. But we like to be different. B, it's their knowledge about the car, which was going to be a really good thing for us. And C, the desert race. So everyone's going to go for these huge, and by the time you armour them up, they're going to be three ton plus.
3 ton, yeah.
Let's choose the Porsche. It's smaller, it's agile.
Mm-hmm.
We'll absolutely smash the desert race side of things. Anyway, the way they basically filmed it was they decided not to run that first, and we ended up out of the competition before the desert race, which was a real shame. That's exactly what we built the car for, really. But
it's dead interesting because deserts and vehicles is an absolute no, and I'm speaking from someone who served in Afghanistan and has had the pleasure of being in every single military tracked, like everything, and nothing really does well. And you're talking about when the MOD says to a company, make us a vehicle to survive the desert. You've got the best tech companies in the world working on these vehicles, and they produce, don't get me wrong, they produce unbelievable vehicles, but there's always a compromise between armor, mobility, and we ended up getting these things. I don't know if you've ever seen it, called a Mastiff, which was just like a box of metal. That's what it was. It was a box of metal, and the armor on this thing was just, it could take RPGs all day long. The underneath was sort of designed so if like a bomb went underneath, the plate armor was shaped so the explosion would follow through and just go up and around and not like unbelievably engineered. But it's just something about sand in the desert. What it does to vehicles is just
cars are not
biblical.
I mean, to be honest, out of everything, the biggest problem we had was the fuel evaporating in the fuel line. So then you would end up with not being able to start the car up. I mean, again, it was a compromise, and I should just add in that we only had 6 weeks to build this thing. So there was a lot of compromises made, and also it was designed for one use, really. So there were certain things that we were happy to compromise on for the sake of it being good for that 1 or 2 drives.
Wow.
But yeah, the fuel lines, it was just so hot. It was unbelievably hot. And we had no real way of cooling it down. I mean, we found ourselves in the middle of the desert. It was 50 odd degrees, like middle of the day. I mean, you'll know what it's like. The sun is beating off the ground.
It's horrid. Yeah.
And there's absolutely no relief from it. And you're trying to function. That poor car is trying to function. And we ended up actually covering, we had obviously a cover over the engine because it's in the back, which is just a steel plate. And we ended up desperately finding some white paint and painting the cover just to try and reflect a little bit of the heat away. That did cause a few problems, but it got us through. It got mostly.
Fair. Yeah, no, it's a fair. It sounds brilliant, and I'm a bit disappointed that I missed it flying under the radar. It sounds like it was like it sounded like it was the greatest show ever. Just getting that, make us brilliant cars and then have a big fight in the desert, like
basically. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrifying in the slightest.
No, and that's something that I'm sort of interested in. Obviously, when you in a stunt car or you race, it's not like getting in a normal everyday car. You've got a racing seat and you wear a neck harness and you've got a helmet and maybe you've got a roll cage. How safe do you feel when, like, and if you've had an accident, do you think I'll be safe in this no matter what, or is there an element of like, holy shit, here we go?
Bit of both. I mean, it depends on the project, and in general, I've never felt unsafe.
Yeah.
The companies that I've worked with would never allow you to feel unsafe. Carnage aside, I could tell you stuff, but it's a whole other show.
Cool.
That was a strange one. Cars, there was a lot of the teams, if not all the teams, weren't happy with the safety that was put into the vehicles, and we weren't happy with what we were subjected to as well, to be quite honest with you. I mean, looking back now and the experience I've got in the 2 years since, and the professional companies I've worked with in the 2 years since have really shown me what it should be like, and the fact that you should never feel unsafe. I mean, you're going to have sort of a little element of apprehension in various scenarios, otherwise you're not feeling it, you're not dealing with it. But you should never really feel unsafe.
On your bio, on your Instagram bio, it's got your trainee driving instructor. Is it ADI?
Yeah, so I'm training to get that qualification at the
Brilliant.
moment. Part of what I do, I used to teach young drivers,
Yeah.
14 plus, on a private venue, of course.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of driver training as my part of my job anyway. But yeah, I was studying for it before, all of this, which is the collective UK term for COVID.
Oh yeah, you're
all
right.
of this.
Yeah, all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of studying for that, and obviously it's all on hold now. But yeah, we'll pick it back up later.
It's interesting. We rely on our technology now in cars to keep us safe, but I believe that the problem is driving has become the secondary option in a car now, because it's everything else. Like, oh, I've got an Instagram message. Oh, I've got a text. Oh, I'll mess around with the fancy doubled in. Do you know, like, there's all this other extractions now, and I feel like we're getting a false sense of security because we're told, oh, it's 5-star rating this, and it's got this, and ABS, and all these fancy things. When realistically, if you just paid attention.
100%. It infuriates me no end, bad driving.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be on the same level, and I understand that, but I think you're completely right. I think there's a lot of safety features within vehicles now, which, don't get me wrong, are amazing and fantastic. However, it's taking away the responsibility of the driver to be a safe and good driver. And that, for me, that's a huge concern, because driving standards have dropped dramatically, and in turn you've got more accidents, more incidents, more danger on the road. I think a lot of that is to do with distractions that we didn't have before. Like, you've got your phone, you can see Facebook pinging and everything like that. But you've also got that, oh, it's all right, I don't need to worry, I've got ABS will stop me. No, it won't. It might stop your wheels locking up, so it potentially will stop a skid. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't need to, you can be blasé about it. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult one, because I'm a massive advocate for it. I'm now chairman of my local Rodar group, which is part of ROSPA.
Brilliant.
So I got involved with them last year, and I did my own exam when I joined, and passed with a gold, which I must say I'm very proud of. Really proud of that. It meant a lot, actually, because I've been driving for 14 years or something like that. 14 years. Still 21, and so for me, I've said for a long time, I think people should be retested sort of every 10 years or so. I think
it's a great idea.
Standards really, really need to be looked at. And for me, that was I wanted to put myself through it. Because of my job, I know I'm a good driver. I'm confident I'm a good driver. But that's not to say I hadn't picked up any bad habits. That's not to say I was perfect and could learn. So I said, no, I'm going to go and do this. And it's a nice achievement to have. So I did it. Like I say, passed with a goal, which I was actually surprised at, which is brilliant. And then I'm now chairman of our local group, so I'm a big advocate for like road safety. And
you absolutely bang on the head. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've never speeded and I've never done, and I've never cut anyone up. Like, you do make mistakes.
Absolutely, everybody does.
But I think it's a great point to say. Every 10 years, you go and get retested, or you go and get an assessment, whatever we want to call the word. And I also feel like there's a lot of people out there who they walk into a garage, and it's not the salesman's fault. Anyone, they say, I like a new car, right? Here's this brilliant service plan, right? Brilliant, and they drive it. And actually, if anything goes wrong, and what I mean by anything is a flat tire, coolant, engine oil, like daily, and they're like, my car want this. Have you done this? Like flat battery, for example. I'll tell you what's going to happen. COVID-19. This is like everyone who hasn't driven the car for weeks on end will go to the car, turn it, nothing. They'll be like, right, where's the air, or where's green flag? Yeah, car won't start. when last time we started it, 7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right, well, your immobiliser still draws power. If you've got a dashboard camera and it's recording, that's still drawing power. All of these, all right, so what do I need to do? Well, do you have a power pack? No. Right, well, we'll be coming around then, but your premium's going up next year because you've called us out. But it doesn't need, like, people have lost that basic mechanic, like, fault-finding procedure to go, hang on, this car, to do this car must, right, I must do that. I mean, even people like putting in the wrong fuel or putting engine oil into the coolant, it's like, what are you doing? Like, have you ever thought about, is there any like scope as a business to run like a basic morning or day course where it's like, we will teach you how to do these I don't say mundane, but basic everyday
checks. Yeah, you know, I've actually genuinely thought about this before and toyed with the idea. I don't know how to roll it out, but yeah, 100% what you're saying, because I'm mechanically minded, but I'm not a mechanic by any stretch. Yeah. But I understand the basics of how cars work. Yeah. I have to for my job, but I understand the basics of looking after my own car and how to perform basic checks. And unpopular opinion alert, I think everybody should. And I know people aren't interested, and I'm not saying they need to have an interest in it, but you should have an interest from the point of safety, if nothing else. I mean, there's people, I've seen friends carrying their children around in their cars with bald tires.
Oh, tires is...
And it proper grinds my gears, because they think I'm just like nagging on, and I probably am. But I'm like, yes, but you're carrying your family, not just yourself. You've got other people on the road. You've got your baby in the car. Yeah. And you've got tyres that are not only illegal, they're just beyond dangerous. If anything happened, you know, you're not in a position to be able to stop safely. Like, yeah. For that reason alone, take an interest, you know?
Yeah, I for what I do, I have a 7-seater now, right? There we are, gone from fast cars to dad cars. Yeah,
Dadmobile now.
But when I bought the roof box, right, second hand, the woman who I bought it off, like, the roof box was fitted to the car, and I was like, "Oh, have you been using it?" And she was like, "No, I just leave it on all the time." And I was like, "You must go through some juice." And she was like, "Why would I go through juice?" I was like, "Drag." I was like, "It's a big roof box. Like, unless you're using it, don't have it on your car." She's like, "Oh, I did think I was spending a lot of money on fuel." And I was like, "What?" Like, but it's that thing. Like, you could teach that. You could say, "Look, if you're going to have something on your car which wasn't designed in the natural way of the car, then remove it. Don't you? Yeah. You wouldn't drive around with a trailer if you weren't using the trailer."
Yeah, true. Like, that's a very good comparison. Yeah, it's right.
It's drag, right. And it's thirsty, this car. Well, yeah, it's thirsty because you're driving around with a sail on top of your car. Like,
yeah, basically.
But I think I've never seen that anywhere, Sarah, and I think there is definite legs or wheels in running some sort of how to change a tyre, how to change bulbs, how to basic fault find, basic problems. I mean, the amount of people I see in garages picking up oil and just looking at it thinking, my car needs oil, this will do. But is it the right oil for your car? Is it?
It's extra virgin olive oil, probably not. It's amazing what I've seen people do, to be honest. It is amazing. I mean, I kind of commend the guys and girls that get it wrong, really, because at least they're trying. At least they're doing something about it. I mean, like you say, you don't need to be, you know, knowing the ins and outs of your car. You'd have to be an expert and you'd have to be a mechanic to do that. But yeah, basics. I mean, imagine if you brought down, if you in the middle of the M25 or whatever, and you get a puncture. If you've got your spare wheel and you know how to change it,
you're gone.
You and your family, you're off on your way. You're not at the side of the motorway in a dangerous position. You're off and gone. Or even just, like you say, topping it up with oil, topping it up with screen wash. Basic stuff, really.
Yeah, no, it definitely, you should. Well, I don't know if it's something that you thought about. I've just personally, I've never seen anyone offering that anywhere, and I definitely feel like 80%. And I'd even come on something like myself just to sort of re-educate myself on some stuff myself. It's
to make sure you know.
There's no hardship. We sort of talked about it before we went on the podcast, but how close are women to getting into the top level of motorsport? Where would you say we are? Are we 2 years, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years?
I think we're a long way off. Yeah, I mean,
Really?
we are getting a lot closer, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But I think regardless of what happens in the foreseeable future, it's still always going to be a male-dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an issue with that. That's the way it is, and that's fine. As long as women aren't being blocked from positions, which unfortunately sometimes they still are in certain companies and stuff. I've experienced it myself. Unfortunately, it still exists in this day and age to be blocked out of things. But I think it's just that you've got to just keep pushing, pushing forward, because if it's something you want to do and you've got the experience or you want to get the experience, go for it. I mean, what's stopping you, basically?
And you mentioned before there is women who are testing for F1 and there is people really, really on the cusp of it. So like, I mean, you know, as a not just a PR, but like a good move to make. If there's a position available, I don't see the problem. Do you know what I mean? Like it'd be a great move for whichever team took it on, and hey, be brave.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, if that's what you want to do and you're getting yourself up there, I think there are a lot more women involved in the driving side of things now, which is great.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to keep pushing on and see how far we can get. I mean, we've got stuff like W Series and other things going on, which are getting women out there, you know, in the world of motorsport. And I think that's what we need. But
yeah, definitely.
I just think there's still a lot of outdated views, whether it's subconsciously. I found a lot of people, a lot of men throughout my years of being in motorsport, I've had a lot of comments from men that they're not trying to be derogatory, but subconsciously they are being, because they're separating you from everybody else because you're female, and it's very frustrating. But you do have to just take those with a pinch of salt and kind of not let it get to you, because I know these people aren't setting out to be sexist or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just think that it is shifting, but some areas need work.
And how's motorsport in general, with all of these sort of big cancellations of all these big events and COVID, how is it sort of holding up in this crisis? Like, where will you lose any of the sort of big teams who just can't sustain not racing and not being sponsored and not going to events? Are we going to lose certain companies and certain teams?
I think there's always a possibility of that happening. Yeah. I mean, the industry in general is just at a halt right now. I mean, I haven't done any motorsport work since March.
Wow.
Well, any automotive work since March, which just feels like forever ago. So I think everybody kind of in my industry is really, really struggling with it. But I think there's a risk of a lot of people being affected financially. Maybe the bigger teams will be okay. Maybe they've got stuff in reserve. But I think some of the smaller, especially clubman teams, people are using their hard-earned to race. And if their income's been affected, then we don't know what state our championships are going to be in when we go back. Because
at the end of the day, cars are notoriously expensive.
Yeah.
and the level you're playing at, it doesn't matter if you're Ferrari or McLaren. When things are costing a lot of money, they cost a lot of money. And stuff's still got to be paid. And, you know, teams, engineers, the whole thing is affected, isn't it? It doesn't matter. I think one thing about this virus, which has sort of really shocked me, is it doesn't matter if you're the littlest guy in the street or the biggest company in the world. Like, everyone has took a knock. And I just think, apart from going to space, I thought that was class. I was like, I don't know why we don't go to space more. We're better. Like, human beings are better when we're trying to get somewhere. When we're trying to break a barrier, we're better. If we're just left to sit around and just point fingers, it's very, very tribal and it's not good. But when we're trying to push boundaries, like get into space and colonize the moon and Mars, when we've got a direction, we can get on point. Otherwise, we just end up going absolutely bananas. How's social media affected motorsport? Like, because I feel like it's had good effects on everything it's come into contact with. But how has it affected sort of motorsport?
I think in general it's a really positive thing. I think I'd be on it a lot less if I didn't have business on there. As such. But yeah, I think it's made motorsport in some respects more accessible. You've got a lot of championships now that a lot of their coverage is live now. A lot of their coverage is on social media, and the cost of that is a massive drop compared to television coverage. You can have live television coverage, but that costs obviously a lot again. So I mean, you've got championships that have TV coverage and you have to wait 2 weeks to see that after the event, whereas if you've got championships that are live streamed, you've got people who can't make it to the event can watch it. It's accessible for everyone, plus you can get a much wider spread on the viewing on social media. And obviously that pushes it out to more people who actually would never have seen it on the telly, who actually might be just scrolling through and it pops up on the news feed and they go, do you know, I'm going to go to the next one of them. And you end up with more spectators. I think it's a really good thing in general.
And obviously people's favourite drivers or favourite teams are on social media, and I feel like people can reach out and DM people, and you know, I mean, that's how I did it with you. I just sent you a message saying, do you want to do the podcast? So like, people aren't, you know, they're reachable. I mean, I don't know the likes of sort of Lewis Hamilton. I don't know if you can just DM Lewis and say fancy podcast.
He probably won't reply, but you never know. I've never tried, so maybe. But in general, people are more accessible, and it's in a really odd way. It's sort of humanized it in an extent, which is really ironic. But to a point, it has. I mean, you've got back before Facebook, you had your idols, you had your racing drivers that you looked up to. You would see them in a magazine or on the telly, and that's it. Whereas now, you get a little insight into their lives as well.
Yeah,
so you
definitely.
Can get, you know, a nice following for people in that way.
Yeah, awesome. Sarah, we're going to sort of look to close down the show, and you're the first guest in a long time. I've now officially ended my COVID-19. It's done. Line through. Finished. Thanks very much. So I've brought back the 5 watts, the old school 5 watts. Right. So the first one, what's the greatest piece of advice you've been given? Please tell me it's don't crash.
I mean, that's more of an obvious than an advice. But I think it's a difficult question because it's been a lot of valuable advice I've had off a lot of different people. But I think never give up is the best phrase that I'll always remember. And it sounds a bit cheesy and a bit naff, but it is right. Like you mentioned earlier, if there's something you really want to do, what's stopping you? There's always going to be obstacles. But if you sit back and think, oh, no, I can't do it, well, then you won't. But if you just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, you're going to get somewhere. Yeah, you might not get to the top, but you'll get a lot further than if you just sat on your backside. So never give up.
Fair enough. Second one, what's on your bucket list? That's either professionally or personally.
A bit of both, but I've got a couple of things really on my bucket list. I really, really want to get out on a track with my dad, me in one car, him in another. And have a race. That's a big bucket list. I'm not sure how well that'll end. I really, really want to drive in the live action arena at Autosport International.
Right, cool.
I've worked with the Rallycross and other companies there for I don't even know how many years. It's better than Christmas. It's in January, so it's like I look forward to it every year. And I love it. And I've been involved in the live action arena, but I've never driven in it, and that's a massive, massive goal for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Awesome. Third one, what's been your toughest day?
Professionally, one of the toughest days I had was I'd been involved with a race championship for 8 years.
Yeah.
Alongside, but not actually working separately, but you know, keeping out of each other's way. Another photographer, because I do a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Who out of the blue took exception to me being there. Well, he'd always had an issue with me, but I just kept out of his way. And he complained, although I'd done nothing wrong. I was doing the same thing I did every week, but he had an issue with me being there. and unfortunately his mate had just taken over
Oh.
as manager, and it was
See you later,
like,
Sarah.
you're not welcome anymore. And that broke my heart, that, because it was a
Wow.
real passion of mine that I enjoyed for 8 years. And I mean, if I'd made a mistake, I'd kick myself for it and hold my hands up and deal with it, but when you've not done anything wrong, that's a really, really hard thing to swallow. So that professionally was a really difficult thing for me.
Ego is a hard thing for some people to let go, and
It 100% is.
yeah, and that's his ego not allowing him to think, well, two people can breathe in the same space and find a mutual way to thrive.
That's it. He was the official team photographer for those years, and I wasn't. I was really there kind of for the fun of it, just for the experience and just because I really enjoyed the sport. And I'd never once tried to, undermine whatever he was doing. He did his thing and I did mine, and I was more than happy with that. But yeah, as soon as his friends took over, he took that opportunity to get rid of me, basically.
My ego will be the downfall of anyone who has one, 100%, without a doubt. Fourth one, what's been your happiest day, professionally or personally?
Professionally, again, there's probably been obviously a lot of happy days,
hopefully.
But there's been a few that kind of stick in my mind, I guess. I mean, you've got when we flew out to South Africa to do
class.
The Sky One show. I mean, that was just surreal, and what an opportunity that'll never, leave me. There was an event I did with Rolls-Royce. I was very, very fortunate to be asked to be basically one of their drivers for the day for a promotion they were filming for the new Black Badge Cullinan that they were launching. And I wasn't in the Cullinan, somebody else was in that, but there was 4 of us there. We all had a Rolls-Royce and we were on a secret ex-military base. And at one point I was sat in a Rolls-Royce in the middle, in pitch black darkness, in the middle of an empty nuclear silo.
Wow, amazing.
With no door at the front, and we were waiting for the go on the radio. And when the go, we turned the engine on. When they said go again, floor it, fly out the tunnel, and there was cameras outside filming us going in different. It was just such a surreal moment. We kind of sat and looked at each other across from each car, looked at my colleagues, and we were like, "What? Really doing this? This is crazy."
What Rolls Royce were you in?
I was in a Dawn that day.
Right.
Yeah,
wow.
the convertible. It's not even my favourite. The Wraith is my baby. I pray for that one every time I go, but I'll take any.
Rolls-Royce always strike me as a company that just do everything like immaculate. Is that how they are? Are they just immaculate in everything they do? Just 10 out of 10, 1,000 out of 1,000 all the time?
Yeah, 100% for sure. They are very specific in the way they operate, and they're very, what's the word? Very precise.
Yeah.
And very, can't think of a word that is good enough to describe. Precise doesn't even cover it. Everything is perfect. You get training. I've had their white glove chauffeur training.
Wow.
Because I have to take clients in the vehicles, and there's even ways that you have to walk around the vehicle, ways you have to open the door. Everything has to be just so, and it's to outsiders sometimes it seems like a little sort of finicky, but when you've got clients who are within the brand, or we're welcoming them to the brand, they've made a big investment in something that's really special, and we're not putting them into a Focus. We're putting them into
Rolls-Royce.
Potentially what we believe is the best automotive vehicle that you can possibly get in the world, and that experience must be perfect for them.
10 out of 10. No, there's there was a story not so long ago. A sort of a famous YouTuber had bought a Ferrari, and he had it spray painted a certain color, and basically Ferrari had got wind of it and sent him a sort of like,
I can imagine what you could say.
Do not like that for like we're furious with him, like saying you will never let you own another Ferrari ever. Like
you've wrecked it.
You've wrecked a thing of beauty. Like we are Ferrari. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't care who you think you are. We know who we are, and it left the showroom in that colour for a reason. And
Yeah.
he spray painted like a luminous sort of like green, and it was an awful colour. And I was like, and then like they talked about it on another podcast, saying, yeah, you know, you're in trouble when you get a letter from Ferrari saying you're never owning a Ferrari again. So yeah, like certain brands have like, you can't do this because we are. Do you know what I mean? Like this is
and it does
us.
sound a bit over the top, and maybe sometimes it is, but I think I'm really lucky, really fortunate that I do get to work with Rolls-Royce along with other brands. But when you learn about the history of the brand and the heritage and everything else, it gets a little place in your heart. It sounds a bit cheesy, but it does. It takes a little bit of your heart up, and you appreciate the British engineering, and you appreciate the heritage of it, and then you can see. I mean, sitting in amazing because you can look at the instruments and you can see
the precision and the
precision.
craftsmanship.
Everything's handmade. You can see the hand stitching. You can see why they've designed it like that and the reasons behind certain things, and that's really special. It's a really special vehicle to be in.
Yeah, they are proper amazing. Fifth and final one. What's next?
Well, if I'm ever allowed out of the house again, I've got loads of things. I tell you what, this year was going to be the best year. I had so much planned. I had so much work booked in that I'd worked really hard for, and it's all gone. So hopefully it'll all pick back up again when things get a little bit more normal. But a big thing is me and my dad, we've got 2 cars to get ready. We don't fully know. Obviously, I want to race one, but we just want to get them finished and get them ready. We unfortunately lost a friend last week to COVID.
Sorry.
Thank you. We really, really want to push and get this car ready in honour of him now, because he was involved with us and with the car.
Right.
That's a big push for us now to get that ready, and that's a nice thing to look forward to get out and hear it running and do that in honour of him. So that's a really big one on our list. Just getting back to work might be quite nice, which I never thought I'd say, but
fair enough.
To go back to work. But a bit of normality, being able to earn properly again would be lovely, and enjoy the jobs that I've been doing, and hopefully pursue a few new opportunities as well. I had various different training. I had some stunt training booked, which is gone, and I want to finish my ADI qualification and get that boxed off. So
brilliant,
lots to do.
Brilliant, Sarah. Thanks very much for your time. Where can people find you on social media, websites?
Yeah, so sarahhallmotorsport.com, and the same on Instagram and Facebook, Sarah Hall Motorsport, and you'll find me there.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, the super impressive Sarah Hall. Chase your dreams. We only get one shot at this life, and don't spend it wishing, spend it doing. Sarah, thanks very much for your time. It's been great speaking to you and great to get to know you. And I'll catch you soon. Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.